I'm on a date tonight, so I'll have to just look good. No, I'll just do it in front of her, shouldn't I?
Going! He's kept going! He's scored! Oh, Stockport pressure. And the header into the back of the net! Played in again. And a superb goal! Johnny did it! Lisa! Rose trying to get the ball in. Wilkinson! The ball ahead! His first goal in 13 games. Towards Stars thinking he's had a goal. Madden with a score! Oh, Paddy Madden! It's a 5-star performance from Stockport County.
All right, we got a small house, but we got a big bloody heart, I tell you.
I'm on a date tonight. Not if you're watching us, you're not. What a life. Unless you are on a date tonight and you're watching us, in which case, may I humbly suggest Nick for a boy, Hannah for a girl. Sorted.
I was
Covered all
going to say,
bases.
I thought like maybe you would have let me in on the secret.
Yeah, I'm on one right now. Right this second. It's
Good to know.
like, I want to know what you're into, Nick. And I've just set up all my podcasting stuff. Yes, this is the 37th episode of SK3 TV. Every week, taking a look back at the weekend's goings on in and around county. With me, Nick, and as ever, it's Hannah. Hello.
Hi,
How are we?
I'm good, thanks.
Yeah?
I'm a little bit just generally confused by the world.
Yeah,
Because
oh yeah.
saying before we started, I kind of had it in my head that it was Northampton tomorrow, which I'm kind of okay with, and then Bolton, and then Charlton. So when we've been making big out plans after the extreme success of the inaugural SK3 TV podcast night out,
Yeah.
I didn't realize that would be 2 consecutive Saturdays out, which, if I'm honest, is a bit intimidating. Can't remember the last time I went out twice in a month, let alone 2
I
consecutive.
feel as though I'm like living my life through I'm basically living out an Arctic Monkeys album again. I've not felt like this for like nearly 20 years. It's an odd feeling. But yes, we did go out on Saturday night with Will, also part of the show, Des Hinks, a fellow content creator. It was a real content creators night out. If any of us referred to ourselves as content creators, if we were that type of wanker. But when I must say, our relationship went to a new level because you saw me dance.
I did, and Will. Both of you were living your best lives on the stage. So we went to Highballer, which is the new or it's like a pop-up version, isn't it? That used to be an amp. So they advertised themselves as a darts board, which there was, a pool table, which actually I don't remember seeing a pool table.
It was there, but it always attracts undesirables. I wasn't going to go down there. And it's card only nowadays with pool tables, so you can't go. The days of like slapping a £1 coin on the side are gone.
Wow.
They're always card only.
And they promised a jukebox, which we did not see. There may well have been one.
There wasn't. I've done some homework. I bumped
was...
into Ben Taylor today, friend of the show and friend of Highballer, and he said it's getting delivered this week, the jukebox.
Oh, well, because it was a very eclectic mix of music, which I'm not mad about. The music was great. And I got used to it being really, like, I'm so old. Like, it was noisy. I couldn't hear the conversation.
No.
But we settled into it. It was all good.
We settled into it. It's all good. It's a very good night. And yeah, we'll probably just do it. There was a point at half-time of Saturday's game where I thought, oh, God, we're all just going to be sat in the pub on our phones arguing with people on Twitter. That's going to be Saturday night. But luckily, we turned it round. And it was all good.
It was. And, yeah, it was a really good night. And I think I'd conservatively earlier on said, I'll be home by, like, 10 o'clock, 11. It was a little bit later than that. Not loads later. But, you know, there was police intervention, not with us. I should hasten to add.
Speak for yourself.
No, I mean, it was just a very entertaining evening. We did a lot of people watching.
A lot of people, a lot of date watching, a lot of people watching to a creepy degree, to the degree that if they noticed it, then that's going to stick with them forever.
100% that couple will have noticed.
Yeah, well, serves them right for being on such a terrible, terrible date where one or both of them should have been hanging out with us instead, because we were
We
the cool,
think that
trendy
it was
people.
the first date for context, don't we?
And the last.
At least I
Oh.
hope it. I mean, I hope for her
That's
sake
even
particularly it
bleaker
was.
if it's like their 15th date or something. It's like their anniversary or something, then that really is bleak.
Maybe it was too loud for conversation for them as well.
Maybe. The last thing to take from the evening was the highballer ran out of beer. We did that.
Yeah.
It's nice
Well,
to feel like your actions are making an impact on society.
I mean, ultimately, you're supporting local business, which I think is the takeaway.
Yes, very much so. McDonald's chiefly.
And yeah, we should say as well, highballer. We're not just, but it's part of the wider cultural sphere.
Yeah.
SK3TV is part of. They do also do food. They do burgers and chips, which I should have had because I got home at whatever time and realised that I'd literally had Bovril and Diet Coke all day.
Oh, some of us embarrassed themselves in McDonald's, Hannah.
I mean, were the police further involved, or
they should have been. I've only watched back about 20 seconds of that video, and
I've not watched it.
Oh, it's in the group. Will sent it. Yeah, it's not good. It's not good. I'm like, are you familiar with that Bevo guy, who he went famous on TikTok for like doing food reviews, but he wouldn't chew. He doesn't. He just do a bit of, and then swallow it.
No.
And that's what I was like with the chicken nugget. There was points where I've not finished a nugget and I was dipping another one and it was going in.
Dan says that he got in at 7 a.m. from Scal's Peaks, which is quite an achievement. But I don't know what Dan may not be aware. We were out with Blake off of table 1, so there's a bit of a link up there.
Yes, we very much were. Bevo does a gay OnlyFans now, by the way. Just thought I'd clear up the beat because Dan Mole in the comments knows who Bevo is. I thought I'd mention him. Right, we are, of course, for all the talk of one hot night spot, we are sponsored by your food suppliers for another hot night spot. That's a lot of words that I don't normally need to use, but I've used them. It's out there now. Yes, we are sponsored by Blackbird Kitchen on the Pans at Gorilla, Whitworth Street, West Manchester, and they have just done a competition to come up with a new pie flavour, and they picked 2 winners.
2, but neither of them were mine. I should have started a campaign to, get some viral support of my pies, but the 2 that they've picked sound all right, in fairness.
Yeah, I'll be having a go.
But I just wanted free pies, if I'm honest, which is maybe something we can negotiate with the, when the contract renewal.
Yeah, when the sponsorship's up for renewal, we will be taking pastry into account.
Premium pies.
That's all I've wanted for my whole life, to be honest.
Yeah.
In pies. Right, shall we get on to some top EFL Sky Bet League One action? Let's do it, because it was good after.
It was good.
I wouldn't have thought it would be after 45 minutes, but
No.
it was in the end, and there's so much to talk about, which I'm very excited about. Let's do it after this. So to start with, it was very much. I mean, the first big thing was Jezzy Febs being back in the lineup.
And straight in the starting squad, which was definitely not. I mean, I forgot to do Fan Hub on Saturday, but he would 100% not have been.
He didn't make it into mine. No.
In my Fan Hub, I would have expected, if I knew he was back, which I also didn't, I would have expected him to start on the bench. But the way that Chalna kind of played out the game and the tactics and the changes in the second half, I think it's probably for the best, to be honest.
Yeah, definitely. It worked out. It had that feeling 10 minutes in, by the time we've gone 1-0 down, we'll talk about the goal in a second. It did have that feeling of Cambridge again, where it's just like, oh God, it's going to be one of those days, because we have not got... I think first half wise, we were worse than we were against Cambridge because we
Yeah.
just didn't seem to offer anything whatsoever. The goal, it's led to a bit of a which way.
Well, it was always going to.
type of
Whenever
thing.
that poor lad concedes a goal, it results in polarization of the fan base.
I mean, if you think about Kyle Wotton's chance at Cambridge, if he'd scored that, people would have. I mean, it was very much an identical chance that he had at Cambridge, and the keeper came out and saved it, but no one was saying it was a good save by the keeper. It was all, oh, look what Wotton's done.
Yeah.
How's he not scored there? So by that token, I'd say this was a good goal. You can argue maybe he was a bit hesitant to come out or not, but I think that's just down to. I think there's 2 or 3 players ahead of him who've made a mistake in letting a ball like that go through it. I mean, Ethan Pye has lost the runner, which is very unlike him.
Yeah, I think. Yeah, I completely agree. I think Fletcher kind of deserves a bit more credit.
Yeah.
And I think with Adai, it was almost like he knew he wasn't going to get to it, so he didn't, and he's done that before, which shows a really high degree of kind of understanding the opposition and his limitations, but the optics of it aren't great because a stadium full of 10,500 people don't see him making an effort and just kind of watching it go past him. And I'm sure he was right. He probably couldn't have got to it, but it's that perceived lack of kind of attempt at trying to get to it.
Yeah, I think Phil Lloyd said in the comments, I've always backed Adai, but he should have come for that ball. Interesting. He's also said, which is a very good point, which is what I was about to say as well. It's a confidence thing. As any mistake is going to be jumped on by some sections of so-called supporters. So he is, normally when you hear the phrase confidence player, it kind of refers to an attacking player who needs the confidence to run a fullback or whatever. You don't tend to hear that said with goalkeeper because if a goalkeeper's suffering from lack of confidence, then things can go very bad very quickly. And I think it's to his credit how he's come in as the number 1 when maybe a lot of people think he shouldn't have been straight away. He's made a few mistakes, lost his place, got his place back, and been very important for us, particularly against Wigan. He keeps us in that Wigan game. And then he does it again. I'm glad to see the club sort of posting stuff to give him the credit for the saves in the second half.
Yeah,
nice.
And I went on a Bolton. I've done a Bolton thing as well, but I went on a Blackpool podcast on Tuesday, and they were talking about what was dramatically different from us playing. What happened in our season from when we played them to now. And I was talking about how obviously Corey Adai had featured against them, but, then it had been Ben for a while. And one of the things I said about him is that he can be really frustrating because the goals that you would perhaps expect him to save, like the Mansfield one, the kind of very low down ones, he doesn't. But then he pulls off these incredible kind of gravity defying like that the Blackpool kind of shot that hits ricochets off the post. It happened in a blink of an eye and he was on it. But then there was one when they were shooting towards the railway end where I think it came off his knee, and the big full out 6'8" of him greeting cards type goalkeeping shots. And the goalkeepers rarely keep an unlimited number of clean sheets, and I think it is confidence, but at the same time, I think he is confident in his own abilities. Yeah. And so goals like that, I know Ollie Norwood was like absolutely bollocking, but he was giving it back as well. He didn't think it was entirely on him. Yeah. And so, swings and roundabouts as far as I'm concerned.
And on Norwood, very much one of those games that wasn't his day.
No.
I think we mentioned a couple of months ago before we went into this amazing run of form, but it was just him and Lewis Bate seemed to be occupying each other's spaces in the First, I mean, looking at the Blackpool forums, they were amazed by how good Lewis Bate was, particularly in that second half. He just absolutely ran the show.
Yeah, and they didn't see that, because for when we played them, it was very much the Louis Barry show.
Yes,
And that was, that was their absolute takeaway. And interestingly, they talked a lot about how this was a must win for them. If they didn't win on Saturday, then that was their season done, essentially. Yeah. They didn't think that they'd be fighting for playoffs. And more interestingly, they also thought that it would be a turning point for our season. So if we hadn't won, they thought that we would start to drop off as well, which I thought was quite interesting. I mean, obviously it was coming off the back of that Cambridge defeat, but we talked extensively about the reasons behind that Cambridge defeat, and there are kind of extenuating circumstances and all of that. So I think it'll be interesting to see like that team in the second. I've gone off your chronological run through.
It's fine. You do what you want, baby.
No, I was just going to say that like the changes in the second half, and we've talked a lot this season, as Charlie and kind of everyone within the fan base, about how much better we are in the second half. And it felt like that again on Saturday, that kind of, right, if we can just limp towards half time without conceding another goal, they'll get their bollocking, we'll make some changes and we'll come back out. And when Camps came back out and started warming up after half time, I was like, it might be okay. It's going to be okay. Because I was ready for home at half time. Yeah. I was already planning my excuses, if I'm really honest.
It was very much like Cambridge in that respect, that they had that 1-goal lead, and then going towards that chance that we talked about before where it's hit the post. I mean, an inch or two to the right, and that's in, and we're 2-0 down at half time. And
we don't come back from 2-0 down.
And we don't normally come back from 1-0 down. So it was a very pleasant surprise, but definitely not. But then, yes, I saw Sam Burns tweet at half time, Camp's coming on. Thought, just a one sub, like maybe it's just a bollocking, and he's coming on. And then a minute later, another tweet, Moxon as well. And then the new darling of the cheat one.
Oh my goodness.
Everyone's new favourite. The reason county managers go to Iceland. The one, the only, Brecky Andresen.
I'm delighted for him. Yeah. I genuinely am. But the lad has had a good half of football. Yeah. And I really worry about people's expectations. And he is high on confidence. He's very much, I broke the record last season. This is what I've come here to do. You've got Charlie saying he's the best finisher that we've got. He's got the Football League paper, star man of the game, man of the match. It's just a half. I don't think hero was used by the club Twitter. Heroes aren't made in a half of football.
No, I think I used that as well on Twitter, but I'd started drinking by then. And I think my drink must have been spiked,
Right.
I only had like 8 pints and 4 shots, and I felt terrible on Sunday.
Yeah. That's it. Yeah.
I mean, I've had a few people point out on Facebook and on the boards as well what we said last week. This is the point where really I should have grabbed a clip of last week's show and I could have faded it in with the dream sound.
Like we say a lot of shit.
Me. But yeah, so what I should point out is that we weren't necessarily disagreeing that he should get more minutes if he's impressing enough in training.
Yeah.
To be still getting on the bench when there's other players who you'd expect to maybe get on the bench ahead of him. So he's obviously doing something right. But the thing, it was the wording used that we were pulling people up on last week. It was people saying, oh, well, give him a go. It can't be any worse. It's like, well, that's the type of thing you say when you're bottom of the league. So,
And he was always, I mean, he was advertised as being a developmental squad player. Yeah. He was, first team fringe. But yeah, I think we'll see more of him. I think it'll be really interesting to see what the starting lineup looks like tomorrow night, because if it was me, I'd pretty much start with what we finished with on Saturday, give or take. And I don't think that's what will happen.
No, see, this is the interesting bit now, because a few of the people who've been slagging Kyle Wootton off all season, and particularly in recent weeks, have boiled it down to, well, Wootton got subbed at half time and then we won the game. And it's like, well, no, because there was certainly an element of Benno being.
Benno.
You can call him different things. It's great. You can call him Benno.
But while we're on this, can we accept as a fan base, if we commit to this early, we're not going to spend the next however many years mispronouncing his name like Mr. Hinchcliffe.
Yes.
It's not Anderson, it's Andresen with an acute accent over the E for extra emphasis.
Yeah, if you're doing French on Duolingo, you'll know what that baby's all about.
So no, we're not having Benno, and whatever it was, Brecky Anderson. No. No,
it's in now. It's embedded in the psyche now. People have already ruined it. Right. Speaking of which, thoughts on the thunderclap?
So I've heard a lot of people say, well, at first, when it first happened at Palace, it was like, oh, we should reserve this for special occasions, and it should be for when he scores. And then suddenly he scores 2 goals and people are complaining it was done twice.
Can't be doing that every week.
I think, I think I can't see him scoring a brace every weekend. Maybe he will, and maybe we'll need to realign our expectations. It felt a bit messy on Saturday.
It did. I certainly felt with the one after the first goal, it takes... There's no singing going on at that point. That's when we've got momentum a few minutes into the half. We've scored an equaliser, and you want everyone to be getting behind the team, but instead everyone's pissing about doing a clap with a large amount of silence in it.
Right. And also the second one was there was just so much going on. So in the pop side at the front of the block where we sit, there was a family they'd lost a member of their family called Clive Booth, who has been has been a county fan for years. His wife had come to the game. I'm not sure that she does normally. And he passed away at 81 years of age. So the family had been lobbying for a minute's applause in the 81st minute. Well, of course, it all goes to shit because the goal was in the 81st minute. So, I mean, bless her. I think it's his granddaughter, like absolutely floods of tears. It was so, even my cold dead heart was like getting a bit emotional because it was just so lovely for her. But there's that, and then there's the thunderclap, and then we've still got to do, what's left of the minute at the 81st minute. So the second one felt even more chaotic. But I don't think we need it. Bloody hell! If we're worrying about doing too many thunderclaps because that lad is scoring too many goals, I'm fine with that.
I just worry. I want to make like a graph of like the demographic of the people who use all the different names for him. So you've got like Benno. I think Benno is for us cool kids, us trendsetters.
Benno's for anyone that was in the courtyard when.
See, that's it. It's a courtyard thing. It's very niche. Yeah. So we use Benno. Then you got people who call him Brecky, and then the people who call him the Icelandic lad. Should we just agree that they're the dregs?
No, I don't know whether is Anderson worse. Yeah, all right, go on. You can have that.
Well, the Icelandic lad stinks of when we had Darie Kalazic as manager, and fans couldn't work out how to pronounce it, so they just called him Dave. It's like, it's easy.
Teo Adamarola was just Teo, wasn't it? Because people couldn't be asked.
People just fell over that second name.
He put in a lovely cross for Bradford on Saturday against Salford, finished by Michael Mellon.
Mellon, finally off the mark at Bradford.
And
that's a bit off injured, though.
I know he did. I know we kind of had our moments about Michael Mellon. But he was, the goal celebration was full, like, shirt off.
Yeah, you don't see enough of that nowadays.
You could see how much it meant to him. And he's not had the easiest start at Bradford either, bless him. No. And I think he's possibly just one of those players that keeps himself to himself a little bit, and has had criticism thrown at him that he's not kind of joined in as perhaps you would expect someone to. But yeah, I was really, really pleased for him on Saturday, because it obviously meant so much. Anyway, that was the kind of a name segue into Teo and then Michael Mullen.
That was a good little sidebar. I believe that was our highest ever attendance as an all-seater stadium. A fact that I noticed Chris Eaton tweeted. And there was one that Ben tweeted as well. This is the first time... Well, I think we worked out on the other board that it goes back to like 1987. The last time we had a player who wasn't managed by Jim Gannon or played with Jim Gannon, which is a cool fact. Yeah, big fan of that. Do we have anything else on Saturday? Oh, a bit of bother in the away end apparently with stewards. There's a fair bit of noise about that on the Blackpool forums.
Yeah, and there was a little bit as well of abuse being hurled at our wheelchair users section, which I understand they're kind of looking into. Yeah, I mean, the club will look into it. I'm sure Blackpool will look into it. I don't know that it's always one person's account, isn't it? And it's like all the stuff that happened at Basque. The first reports are of someone saying, "Oh, it was terrible. This lad was booted out," and all of this, and you don't hear the full story or what happens next. So, yeah, It is what it is, I think.
Yeah, exactly. I noticed there was loads of police on Castle Street after the game, and apparently they were telling people they were surprised that both County and Blackpool fans were allowed to leave the same way. So I think there's like a couple of little flashpoints there. I don't know.
Because at Blackpool they send the away fans right. We had to walk right around, similar to how they do at Wimbledon, and it's absolute pain in the arse. But there hasn't been. I mean, if they think it's bad on Saturday, they should have seen it, a year or two ago, before there was that kind of walkout up to the coach park, because you don't get that kind of clash on the Mersham Way anymore, and to the same degree that you used to. And some interesting comments that I think Des had put on the Scarf My Father Wore blog about the fans' perceptions of the stadium, and normally we get classic, authentic. No, we got non-league as fucking fuck, or Tim Pot,
which I am not having at all. I'm sorry, I'm not having that. No, not at all. That links in nicely to stadium redevelopment, because there was some bits that were spoken at the Junior Fans Forum last week. Tell us all about it.
So your correspondent went to the fan forum. I don't know how much longer I'm going to get away with this, to be honest.
As long as you've got children.
Well, yeah, but they're getting a bit rolling their eyes. And oh my God, my poor Sophie came with me. We'd asked a question about who gets the most fines. It's still Odin Bailey, in case anyone's concerned. But when Steve went to ask the question, she'd gone to the toilet. And so I said, instead of saying, "Oh, she's not here," as there were lots of kids who'd ask questions that weren't there, I said, "Oh, she's gone to the toilet." And so then she was texting me from the toilet saying, "I can't come out because everyone's going to make a fuss." And we'll turn around. So I was like, no, just sneak back in and sit down. And so when it got to her, Steve was like, "Oh, you're back from the toilet." I was like, oh my God, she's a pre-teen girl. This is the word. She doesn't want to be here anyway. The poor child doesn't really come to county.
At least you've not mentioned it on a frothy, loosely county related podcast.
I mean, she doesn't listen to that, so it's fine.
Thank God.
Better than. But Charlotte, what did Charlotte ask about? Where they'd been more successful at their respective clubs. So there was Steve Ellis, there was Micah Hamilton, Stockport SK3 TV away podcast sponsored Owen Moxon. who I did not embarrass myself with, because they've got to the point now where they won't have the photos taken either. And who was the other one? Oh, Lewis Bate, who was filling in for Ben. So there were loads of interesting points raised. One of the questions was, what will happen when we get promoted, or if we get promoted? And so Steve's answer was, well, we'll expand the stadium. The plans to the corner of the Danny stand are still happening, and it was the first time I've heard mentioned that they are considering putting a temporary lid, if you like, on the railway end. He made it sound like that would be for home
lid, if you like. I'd have gone with a traditional term roof, but go on.
That's what, the ones that Barrow, I mean, they're awful, and they need to think about.
That's not the way to sell it to me by mentioning the word Barrow.
I mean, it's a glorified tent, essentially, but it does the job. And my take on that, and this is, just my interpretation of it, is that they're kind of wondering whether actually they're going to need a bigger budget next year, whether that's in League One or the Championship, that maybe it makes sense to ring fence some money that could, and then he was talking about the kind of the other expansion, and the goal is still to get to the 18,000, which would put us on par with some of the Premier League teams. What else was said? So the three of those, so Michael Hamilton, Lewis and Owen, all live together, or they live in, I don't imagine they're roommates, but they're in Vital Towers together. So they were talking about, how there's always questions like, who's your best friend? It's so cute.
Oh, yeah.
So they're like, oh, well, actually, it's him. And it normally tends to be the ones that are there because they've picked them to make it easy for them. So they're all best friends, and they go to training together, which is really cute. But there are also always the questions about, how do I get to be a professional footballer? And Owen Moxon
have your dad be Paul Simpson. That's the way. That's how you do it.
Well, Owen Moxon was talking about how, when you're growing up where he did, it was only Carlisle that you could go to. There were kind of no other options. And it sounds like, and I did know that this was his kind of backstory, and that he'd pretty much given up football. He decided he didn't want to do, he wasn't enjoying it. He went off to Australia, I think. May even have gone to Australia to play cricket, but I also may have made that up, or I may have dreamt it, and it becomes one of those false memory things. But he, so he was saying that when he came back and he went back into the system, it's the important thing for him now is that he enjoys his football. Yeah. And, they were talking about, playing differently for scouts when, there's scouts there, and he's saying if you just enjoy it and enjoy what you're doing, that will kind of raise your visibility, that will get you noticed, because it will come across in how you're playing. And that now is the kind of single most important thing to him as a footballer. What else was there? There was a lot about breakfast. Lewis Bate, bagels. Obsessed with bagels. Good lad. But to the point that he's getting quite upset because when they go to away games, there's not always bagels available on the breakfast buffet. So Steve said that he was going to make sure that Lewis Bate has bagels whenever he needs them. Which
maybe the club should appoint a head of bagels.
Caring for the club, isn't it?
Yeah, if they ring ahead everywhere and say, look, get some, celebrities have the rider.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, Beyonce's coming, don't look her in the eye. Lewis Bates coming, don't look him in the eye, but also get some bagels.
In all honesty, Lewis Bate is a grown-up, and he could put his own bagels in his bag.
That's true. He could, but
in the absence of that, Steve Bellis is going to take care of this. I would also volunteer to, carry bagels around.
Just constantly, just in case you bump into it.
You're right, love. Chuck them onto the pitch. Just snack. Because that's what mums do.
Cream cheese. Oh god! Before we move on from the Blackpool game on to our random county non-league goal of the week, Callum Camps once again coming off the bench and taking the game by the scruff of the neck. And he is one player that I wouldn't be surprised to see starting, but wild card in place of Will Collar.
who was having his knee iced, wasn't he? Afterwards,
I think so, yeah. And there was talk that possibly Wootton picked up an injury towards the end of the half as well. So it could be interesting tomorrow night.
One of the things that Lewis Bates said last week actually was that it's the time of year where you really need to take care of yourself physically, because
I'm trying.
you get to, however many games in, 12 games left or whatever it is. And, if you pick up knocks now, they can quite easily take you out. Oh, Phil Lloyd, just plain bagels. No,
no seeds.
Whatever. No cinnamon raisin, just plain.
Fair play. That's what I go for as well.
That was a bit of an aside. It's because Phil popped up in the comments asking which bagel was his favourite.
It was an important question. That's what we do. We're podcasters of the people. Give them what they want.
I should have made notes on some of the, because some of the questions were very good. But so I think, injuries at this time, and they will have an abundance of caution in terms of resting people while they can, while they've got the squad depth, than they might have done earlier. And Kyle Wootton has put a shift in this season. He's been, we think, pretty much played every game and most minutes of every game.
Yes.
So if we've got the squad depth as we have, then I think it's sensible to give him a rest, even if he's not desperate for it.
Yeah, I think there'll be a lot of surprised people when the lineup gets announced at 7:15 tomorrow night. I think there'll be a fair bit of shock.
Yeah, but that has from and one of the things that has been levied at Benno is that anyone in that position, yes, beautiful finishing, but anyone else in the same position, but it just takes someone to be there. And I was saying to you earlier, I was talking to a Notts County fan on the League 2 606 last night, and she said, how's Wirtz? And I thought, he's getting grief because he's a centre forward that doesn't score too much. And she's like, but that's not what he does. You play through him. I was like, I know. She's like, that's what you knew you were getting. Maybe people have forgotten that. That's what he always was for them at Notts County, and they loved him for it. I thought that was kind of an interesting perspective as well.
And also on strikers, before we wrap up the Blackpool game, Tanto, who I think had probably his best game for us. And it was really, we've discussed before how he's quite clearly worked on his upper body strength and probably learning a lot from Kyle Wootton with that side of the game, with holding it up and battling with defenders. And he was just mad. It was just a shame he didn't get a goal to cap it off. But I think without Benno, Tanto's man of the match. I kind of had that feeling that, because there's always been this history of picking players having a home debut for man of the match if no one else stands out, and then add that to that's the most we've seen Benno play. Oh, turns out I am going with Benno. Turns out Benno is what comes out when I'm not thinking about it. It's Benno. Benno. And
I can't say it without Steve Bellis's Bagara voice. It's that Benno.
Yeah. Oh God. Right, what we'll do before we move on from Blackpool, we will have the Chris Eaton sourced random county non-league goal of the week. We'll watch it and then I'll tell you about it.
Notts County, one of the teams in the top 7, thumped at Torquay today, chested down by Collar, and Hippolyte hits it! Precise pinpoint from Hippolyte, and they're really enjoying themselves now, these Stockport County players. The league leaders double their lead at Edgeley Park.
Brilliant goal, brilliant all round. Just a quality strike from Miles Hippolyte. This is about the control of the shot, that's what it's all about. The link-up play from Collar into Crowsdale, then just sides it across him. It's a hard technique, because when it comes across you like that, to strike through it like he's done there and hit the target is absolutely brilliant. It's a brilliant finish there into that corner, and they really mean business, don't they?
Pressure, what pressure?
So that was the 9th of April 2022, a 5-0 win over Southend live on BT Sport. Miles Hippolyte scored the second as County made it 9 league wins in a row, which was the best winning run of that season. And talking of promotion run-ins, we have got quite the march ahead of us. So looking at it, Northampton away, Charlton at home, Bolton away, Wrexham away, and Burton at home. How many points from those 5 for you is a good return? Never asked this question as well.
I hate predictions and asking. Right, so okay, thinking about the league generally, I would expect 3 tomorrow. Charlton, maybe a draw. Charlton are very good at not accepting that they've lost. So they played Leyton Orient on Saturday, and at 90 minutes, Leyton Orient were 1-0 up.
Yeah.
And I actually thought that it finished 1-1 because Charlton scored in the 93rd minute or something. And then they scored again in the 97th minute and took the 3 points.
And had quite a day out.
I mean, although last time we played Charlton at home, obviously, it was a very different picture. But I think for me, that's the one. Bolton, deal with Bolton and Wrexham together because they played each other at the weekend as well.
In an absolutely torrid 90 minutes that I'm not getting back.
Dire. Absolutely dire. I do think that Wrexham had the upper hand, and
as you'd expect them to at home.
Yeah, and Schumacher said that he thought that, you know, it was a well-earned point, or I can't remember how he phrased it, as did Gary Caldwell about Exeter and Northampton as well. But it was just dire. No one seemed to be able to kind of finish anything off. And the Bolton that we played and battered however many months ago is the Bolton now that doesn't have Dion Charles. They're kind of been unsettled with managerial changes, Ian Everett's departure, but they've got the 3rd best form record in the league over 6 games. Charlton have the 2nd. So I don't know. You, there's a lot in this league, and the same with Burton to a certain extent. There's a lot of clubs or a lot of teams, and I think it's a kind of style-based factor that we just do well against or don't do well against. And Bolton seems to be the team that we can outplay. Wrexham we will lose to because that's what happened.
See, I'm starting to, I know you tell me off for whispering things quietly, but I'm starting to get the feeling this is going to be the year where Wrexham don't have the measure of us at their place. I've just got this feeling.
I'm actually quite impressed with Wrexham in that they've not given in to sentimentality. So we probably won't see Mullen. We probably won't see Palmer.
Whose dad is getting his knickers in a twist, replying to the club's tweets and stuff.
Yeah.
Which, to be fair, from the 2 strikers they signed in January, they've had a combined total of 1 goal.
Yeah. Wrexham are not a team that features highly in the league scorers. In fairness, neither do Northampton. Northampton have got Conor McGeehan, who I think we last saw it. Was it Colchester or Gillingham he was at, I think?
One of those nondescript teams.
But he's done really well. But Sam Hoskins, who was epic for them, he's still there. Like last time we played them, he was at his absolute peak and just not had the same, goal contributions, yes, but not the same scoring impact. So I think we'll lose to Wrexham, and then I think we'll beat Burton. Burton have had a little bit of a new manager balance there. From the last 6, I think they've got 3 draws, a loss and 2 wins. So infinitely better than they were, but they're still sat on 33 points versus our 60. And they did beat Mansfield at the weekend, but that's not a massive achievement at the moment.
No.
Mansfield are really.
I'm surprised Mansfield are still 6 points above it. It just feels like they've been sinking lower and lower for ages now.
That's what. So they're up for sale. Not kind of actively. It's a passive, like if anyone wants us, come and make an offer.
Yeah.
We've got So Carolyn and John Radford have got some stuff going on kind of away from the club, and Nigel Clough, it's kind of the point in the season where it's not really worth replacing him. No, they're not going to. Davis Keeler-Dunn is flying at Barnsley.
Yeah.
They're still feeling his loss, and they didn't reinvest his kind of fee anywhere. It was supposed to pay for that stand on the you're looking from the away end on the left-hand side. That's work on that hasn't happened. So yeah, I've gone from Mansfield to Burton, but all I'm saying is it's not a massive achievement for Burton to have beaten Mansfield at the weekend. But of the teams that are in that relegation zone at the moment, I think they probably stand the most chance of clawing their way out of it. And Northampton are only just above it when we're thinking about them tomorrow. So yes, okay, we've got that run of potentially tricky games, but then we've got Exeter, Peterborough, yes, Northampton tomorrow. Think that's it in the bottom half. We played Shrewsbury twice, haven't we? Crawley twice, Cambridge. So Burton is the last one, like right at the bottom, and then Exeter and Northampton, who are just above.
I mean, I think even looking at Northampton's form, there's not the only result that really jumps out. I mean, obviously wins against Mansfield, Bristol Rovers, that draw with Exeter at weekend. There was a win at Burton in January.
Sorry, I'd just like to fact check myself. Matt has pointed this out, but Mansfield equalised with Burton. I say equalised because it was an own goal, but it was actually 1-1.
So they're all picking team points up off each other. The only other standout result for Northampton is a 3-2 win at home to Huddersfield just over a month ago, 1st of February. Yeah. But other than that, most of these teams down there seem to be just picking up points against teams around them. They seem to be struggling against teams that are up near the top end. That Northampton win over Huddersfield aside, but it's very. You get the feeling with these five games. An excellent return will see us, because there's only one game in hand now for Wickham and Wrexham up there. So you kind of look and think, oh well, can we make a proper go of finishing second? But there's also this nagging thing that if the month somehow goes catastrophically, like if we have one of those mad months that we very rarely have, where there's just loads of injuries and suspensions and things just don't go our way, we could even be looking and thinking, oh, we're definitely going to get a playoff place here.
No.
Well,
I'm fine with that.
I'm fine with that. I just, especially seeing as I'm convinced we're going to lose in the playoffs. Anyway, I've been convinced all season that's what's going to happen.
I know there are people kind of within the fan base who are absolutely convinced that it's nailed on. And if I look at it with a kind of tilty head and looking at what's going on kind of in the wider league and results, and I think the supercomputer still has us either finishing second or third, which is a big difference. Like psychologically, it's a massive difference. Playoffs are shitty, whichever way. We are not great, and neither are Wrexham. In fairness, So they don't do well on the really big marquee occasions. So you've got Huddersfield and Charlton just below. I think Reading are storming at the moment, and
which is very rare for a club in apparent crisis. It's very rare that they seem to still pick up the results.
But the difference about Reading is they know what they're doing because they've been in crisis for so long.
I suppose so. They are just the crisis club. Yeah, it's been ages now.
And they've brought, it's players that have kind of come through the ranks. They've made some very sensible free signings when they've been able to. I just seen the Barnes. So I was, you get the Sofa Score updates on at the weekend. So Barnsley, Lincoln, the Barnsley goals were just stacking up. It finished 4-3. I think it was 4-1 at one point.
Which bodes well for if we get Barnsley in the playoffs, because it's at the point now. I think we can pretty much rule Blackpool out because they're 12 points off the playoffs now. So their fans seem to have admitted defeat because they're simply just drawing too many games.
Yeah.
But down from Barnsley in 10th on 52, and that goes up to Wickham in 2nd on 64, albeit some teams have played a game less. And it's going to change so much. I mean, Bolton was still in and around the playoff places even when Everett was in charge, and they were apparently terrible. And Schumacher seems to have got a grip of them, so I'd expect Bolton to be in the playoffs. Ourselves and Wrexham are pretty much nailed on. It's going to take something catastrophic for us. So it's happening again. We're already seeing County and Wrexham fans being completely normal to each other on Twitter. We're already seeing arguments about forcing rivalries and stuff. It's begun.
Obviously Wrexham tickets went on sale today. I didn't see any meltdowns, in fairness.
No.
I got my email a good hour and a half before they went on sale. It worked. It didn't work for people who didn't get emails, so everything's working as it should do.
Good.
Checked out, done. And presumably there are still, I've not seen a sold out from the first allocation, which you would expect. So presumably the plan continues and we go to 12:30 tomorrow with the people that have done 10 away games, I think is the next kind of level down. And that will be more of a bum fight for tickets, I think.
Yeah, it seems to have all been going well so far. I walked past this afternoon and there was no one queuing for tickets.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
well, you
not a
like
single person.
With 1,200 people, I can't imagine, because I think the bar was quite high at 15.
Yes, definitely.
Like, can't be. I think I've not bought tickets for one, maybe, and I was on 16, I think.
Oh.
Yeah, because you couldn't count Bolton or Northampton.
Which Northampton makes sense because it's one. People might just buy a ticket so they can bump the numbers up.
Yeah.
Well, Bolton was already sold out.
Yeah.
At this point, so why not include it anyway? But I think we've done it as much as we've been critical of a lot of the ticketing for very good reason. I think they've done it very well. I think the people who go everywhere, who, like Ben said last week, would watch us on Mars on a Monday, they'll get a ticket as it should be. And I think it's interesting to see what happens in the summer because there's rumblings of a new website in the summer.
Yeah,
so
and I
the
think
ticketing thing will go along with that.
Presuming that the plan is still to go with the provider that Tom talked about towards the end of last year, my understanding is that, like, I've had to provide, so I've got 5 season tickets. I've already had to provide contact details for, like, individual contact details for each person. My understanding is that they will have their own records. So, you know, for example, today I could have bought 5 tickets because I've got 5 season tickets. That wouldn't happen in future because each of my 5 season tickets would have their own record. And I mean, lots of clubs do this where in your, like, friends and family, you have to match an allocated ticket to a person. So, you know, although mine is a mix of children, OAPs, adults, I could buy 5 adult tickets for any game. It's not smart enough to be able to work that out. Whereas it would be in future. Presumably, you know, if I'm using Charlotte's barcode or I'm assigning a ticket to Charlotte, it would only let me assign a ticket that is age appropriate. Whereas that's not the case at the moment. So, you know, there are systems available that manage this extremely well. So I think it will be the last season. I don't think it'll be the last time because I think Wickham will be very popular and then potentially playoffs as well. I don't think it'll be the last time, but I think it'll be the last season that we have a scheme like this.
I think when the new ticketing provider gets set up, I might live stream us using it for the first time, just to, because the potential for the best meltdown of all time. If the new ticketing provider goes wrong, then it's going to be the funniest thing that's ever happened in the world.
Do you know what though? There's one that I know. Wrexham Crew. Who else would I have bought a home ticket for last season? Because it was league, like when I was doing when I was doing League 2, lower league look stuff. Donny, all have got the same system. Gloucester Rugby Club is another one completely randomly, but they it's really, really hard to use. And I've got so cross with it that it seemingly doesn't let you order more than one ticket, but it's because you have to choose a type of ticket for each ticket that you're buying. And I would get so cross
that's
because I wouldn't
something.
scroll down. Once you know it, it's fine, but really incredibly frustrating as a platform. So hopefully we won't. I think it's Ticketmaster that it's powered by. But lots of clubs use that.
Well, Phil Lloyd has posed a fantastic question. So this conversation's going to be being had. I bet in half the pubs in Stockport this conversation was being had on Saturday. So I think it's only fair that we should attempt to answer it ourselves. Here's a question for you. If we don't get second, would you prefer Wrexham got second so we avoid them in the playoffs? Hannah?
So I was thinking about this earlier on because I was reading a Twitter exchange between Wrexham fans saying that very much an opinion held by me and some other county fans that if we go up this season, it's a little bit premature and we'll be scrapping at the bottom of the championship and likely come straight down. And so now, best outcome for me is Wrexham go up, get absolutely battered. She says this. This is coming out of my mouth.
You've gone deep with this.
Incredibly stupid because I will inevitably do Wrexham podcasts over the next few weeks, and it'll come back to bite me. Let them go up and come straight back down. We'll, compete with Derby next season and go up in second, and all will be well with the world. But to answer the actual question,
you're a sick woman, Hannah.
No, I'd like them on the other side of the draw, and they'll inevitably lose in the semis.
Yeah, I mean, either way it happens. If we were to be in the playoffs with Wrexham, it's high risk, high reward. Because we've never played them. If a playoff final against Wrexham at Wembley, we've never played them on neutral ground before. We know we don't win there, and we know that they don't tend to win here. So, in recent years, anyway, I'm not going back like prior to the National League title race. So there's that interesting thing of like what would be like on a neutral ground.
That game at theirs last season, we'd won the league.
Yeah,
they'd been out. I can't remember who I was talking to. No, I wasn't talking to anyone about it. It was, if you haven't listened to it, if anyone listening hasn't listened to it, Sars's episode of I Had Trials Once is a brilliant listen. For some reason, I not got around to it, and I listened to it when we were in America in the car, and he talks about how, like, after they won the league, there were games, but I don't think that they were at kind of full cognitive.
Yeah, it's hard to judge it based on that game. You might as well throw that out of the sample size. But it's a big playing Wrexham in the playoffs at any point is just it's like high potential future nonsense.
It's a documentary finale.
See, that's the thing, isn't it? And if they beat us, that's how it'll be spun on the documentary. It'll go back to the episode. It'll go back to showing clips of the episodes when we've beat them in the past, and then it'll be the big redemption story. But then again, other side of the potential future nonsense fence is that they could build it up as this again, and we could beat them again, which would be wild. But I've still got the feeling we'll go out to if Wickham drop into the playoffs, then they'll be going into the playoffs in terrible form.
Yeah, and low on confidence, and because it's like Peterborough for the last couple of seasons have absolutely scraped either just getting playoffs, like based on last game of the season, and then it was Peterborough and Sheffield Wednesday famously 2 seasons ago, and that game at Hillsborough that was ridiculous. Playoffs are a different beast, and you kind of, although saying that, I do think, God, I've got the biggest spider. It's like squirrels and then the spiders. I'm just checking there's none above my head because I can keep an eye on it over there. I think that you kind of have to treat playoffs as separate, and I think the mentality is different. They're not league games; it's a knockout competition, essentially. I mean, I know it's 2 legs, but it is a bit of a different beast, and I think preparation is different to a certain extent.
Yeah. But that said, we're going to lose to Bolton in the playoffs, in the semis. That's what's going to happen. Let's face it. Let's face it.
Oh, I'll tell you what. Did you see that Scott Lindsay's been sacked?
Yeah.
I mean, we've alluded to League Two a lot today, but I think it'll be interesting to see if he pops up at any of those clubs around the bottom of the league. He is excellent at turnaround and kind of short-term results. So it'd be interesting to see. I mean, I don't know what MK Dons are thinking. They're on there.
They've also they've announced today that they've announced like an interim management team, and it says they'll be taking charge for the coming weeks, which suggests it's going to be a long process. Which would rule Luke Williams out because he was favourite at one point.
Yeah, and I think because it will be their 4th manager. I mean, they're paying some compensation.
Could happen to a nicer club.
No. So I think that'll be interesting. I think I'd be interested to see if he pops up back at Crawley. You know, just as we were talking, who was it that we were talking about the other week? Cambridge. And
Bonner and
coming
Harris
back because they'd left under Harris, wasn't it? Left under kind of bad terms, and so they were almost coming back as to mend some bridges. But MK Dons, you talk to MK Dons fans, which I do,
both of them,
and they're like, oh no, in the transfer window, he was getting the band back together. That was where the rumours about Adai to MK Dons came from. And who else was it? Danilo Orsi, can't remember who else. And then they followed Scott Lindsay to MK Dons, and I think it's really interesting. It's bonkers, but really interesting.
Makes you feel when stuff like this happens, it just makes you feel even better about what we're doing.
We're so lucky. And when this is the thing, like when we're bitching about pies or Icelandic thunderclaps, we're incredibly lucky with the kind of stability that we have and the ownership that we have and the squad depth and the minimal, if all of the shenanigans is low level off the pitch nonsense that we complain about for the sake of complaining about, then I'm good with that.
I mean, we've been pretty much off the whole banter managerial merry-go-round thing for close to 10 years now. 9 years we've been, apart from that little 12-month period in the middle where we decided, let's go back to the banter. But other than that, we've been steady with managers, and I think it just goes to show. I mean, obviously we've had the investment as well in that period, but it just goes to show that if you do stick with a manager and he does have a plan, then it will. There were points at Bradford at the moment; they're flying at the moment, Bradford, and there were points.
Oh my God.
There were points where it looked like Alexander was going to go. I mean, to the point where some podcasts were reporting it.
Shut. That was a whole year ago. We recently celebrated Graham Alexander Day, which is a year past him reportedly and completely unfoundedly on his way out.
But it was a credible story at the time, given how they were getting on. But they stuck with him, and they're absolutely flying out. And Walsall seemed to be having a good go at bottling it as well, which is making it even more interesting.
And it is really interesting because they had a Louis Barry in the form of Nathan Lowe.
Yeah.
And the difference between us and them is that since Nathan Lowe went back to Stoke, they have absolutely, I mean, Swindon beat them on Saturday. That's how bad things are. They have absolutely bottled it. And what they had at Christmas, I mean, at Christmas they were first. I think Salford was second at one point, but Salford, it was a false position because they'd had a run of playing kind of bottom half teams. But Yeah, they're in a position now where if they don't go up, and bearing in mind that when Mark Hughes was brought in, he had a 3-year plan, and this would have been the end of his 3-year plan. The 3-year plan was to get them back into League One. So I kind of feel a little bit for him in that, he got booted out. He's now languishing at Carlisle, but this was the time frame that they were working to. And it's the first time that they've properly been up there. They've had the squad depth. They've had the results and have that kind of trajectory, which they have lacked completely. As someone in the comments has said, Carlisle doing well now. They've won 2 games. Well, no, they've won 1, and I think I know it's Tranmere. That Tranmere are a debacle, but
well, Adkins has gone as well. It's mad. It's mad. Some of these clubs, like when we were in, obviously, the changing fortunes between us and Carlisle is the starkest one, really. But even when we first went up to League Two, we were looking at clubs like Tranmere as one of the teams to be a team who traditionally are up there, and they've just it's mad to see how much has changed over the past couple of years, just since past year, just since we were in League Two.
Yeah, I mean, for context, Carlisle bottom of the league with 26 points, played 33 games. From the last 6, they've 2 losses, 2 draws, and then they beat Barrow on Thursday night it was, which was also just, I mean, the Carlisle goal was stunning, but other than that, it was a bit of a mess.
Yeah, I watched some of that. It was not the best.
No, I mean, it's fine, isn't it? It's scrappy, and that's how you can best describe Wrexham and Bolton, who obviously we're coming up against, and then Northampton and Exeter on Saturday. Both of them were slow slogs that I think that the scores in the paper were like 1 star each, which is
that's being generous from what I saw. I mean, but I think people should bear in mind, like, temper their expectations a bit and realize we're going to have some games that are absolute slogs like that. They're coming, and the problem before has been when we've had a game like that, we've kind of sunk to the level of the opposition and got nothing out of the game. So it's about how we've learned from what's already happened. Lovely fact from Chris Eaton there, friend of the show. We've got 4 more points this season than Carlisle have gained in total since Wembley.
Horrible result.
2 years.
Wow.
More points this season than they've gained in 2 years. It's just astonishing. And they've had a takeover since then as well, and it's just taken them back.
Yeah, and Piatak, who is their owner, well, it's the whole Piatak family, but I can't remember what his first name is. He's over at the moment and, kind of expressing all this confidence in Mark Hughes, and genuinely thinks that they can be pulled out of the position that they're in.
They've got form for it.
I don't. Well, yeah, I know. But at the same time, nothing that they've done over the last kind of year since they came in, they're doing loads of good stuff off the pitch.
Yes,
but nothing that they do on the pitch and with the managers just seems to kind of have any impact at all. And I don't know how you change that.
Well, if they go into the final day in the relegation zone but with a chance of staying up, I think I will put a bet on their goalkeeper to score. I'll add Jimmy Glass in 1999. I think it's 99. I think so. Yeah, let's see if that happens. Carlisle got form for dragging themselves out of it. Right, should we wrap it up there?
Yeah, I just want to. All right, a couple of pop side updates from the pop side.
Lovely.
Both good things. So, pop side pizza is now a thing. I believe that there was pizza in the Cheadland a few years ago, and
there was, yeah.
I don't know how that went. But
well, I mean, we've not had it since. So
well, no, but I don't know, like, whether was it not good? Like, why? How did this? Anyway,
it didn't look as good as the ones that we had at weekends.
Yeah.
Put it that way.
So pepperoni or margarita. I honestly thoroughly expected it to be a disaster. We're on all 5 blocks of the pop side at the moment, so it is a lot busier in terms of footfall. And I expected to be told that it was taking ages and they were awful, but no, the ones that I saw were really, really good. they were cooked well, they weren't burned, because it's, you know, those pizza ovens are literally fiery.
I don't know if I'm on the fence with pizza at a football match.
I think
I'm a traditionalist. I'm pies and hot dogs and burgers.
right. And I had this conversation with your friend Sarah, and I was like, very much, if you can sit, so we've got nice picnic tables in the pop side.
Yes,
you sit down at a picnic table with your drink and like a group of you around a couple of pizzas. Lovely, especially as we get into it being a bit warmer. I think that's really nice, but I wouldn't sit and eat it on my lap.
At Hull, you can get apple crumble and custard, which I am fully not having. And I love apple crumble and custard.
I bet that's
love
what
both things
separately every week. Like,
well, he's now sat in the stands, yeah. Like Nick Powell with his pies earlier in the season. But
I spotted Jesse Phelps with pies the other week.
Did you?
Yeah.
What did you think of the change of supplier?
I don't know. I wondered whether it was a PR move.
Yes, yeah. You think they'd have made more of a song and dance about it, wouldn't you?
Yeah.
Rather than it coming out on a podcast.
For the pop side, I think I'd said against Barnsley, there was the queue was like back out to Hardcastle Road. And the same thing happened on Saturday, but they did everything they could. There were more turnstiles open. They had someone walking up and down the queue checking bags, because I think I'd said before, people were getting to the front of the queue and then it was all stopping because a steward who had gloves on was trying to, you know, take off the security things and put them right. Yeah, it was a debacle. So they did everything that they could do. There were people still coming in at 15:15 who were going straight down to blocks 4 and 5. So they were not people that come to county every week, because normally those tickets aren't on sale. So it'd be interesting to see. I think there's at least one more turnstile that could be open, but I cannot remember the last time I saw it open. So it may well not have what it needs to in there in terms of the tech, but you know, all credit to them, the situation was an awful lot better than it had been 2 weeks before.
That's something.
So yeah, at least they're trying and taking on board feedback, which is all you can do, really.
Apparently they're using the metal detector things as well, and
one
of the stewards had to be told to only do 1 in 5 people rather than everyone.
I think, I'm sure there was no profiling involved at all.
No.
But it's, you know, it's the pop side, and it is what it is. But
it is what it is.
So good. I think the queue did get longer, but again, it's learned behavior, isn't it? So I think people who are in the Cheadle will aim to get there earlier, whereas in the pop side you could always just waltz up and it was absolutely fine. It's when they've got these 2 extra blocks. And you know, I needed to go and drop something off at the 1883 reception, and so I knew that I had to do that, and knowing that there was probably going to be a queue, so you just kind of factor that in a little bit. But if you're new, then you don't necessarily have the insight to be able
it's another one of those roadblocks in the way of new fans as well, isn't it? If you want to be expanding the stadium, then it needs to be. I know there's a school of thought that says, well, we're not completely selling out. It's like, well, a large part of that is down to the railway end, I think. The games where we've given that to home fans, it's just not a hospitable environment at all. So hopefully if we get a roof on there and get... Where will the scoreboard go? If they put a roof on there, they'll have to move a scoreboard into the corner. They have to go in the corner next to the pop side and railway end.
Crikey. Yeah.
Decisions.
And it's so big as well. People
huge.
Like in front of it get like... I don't know.
I swear it's getting bigger every game. I think they're just like cramming an extra few pixels on top of it every single week. It's the only explanation.
It's to save on the floodlights, I'm sure of it.
Yes, it fucking works as well. Jesus. I'm just going to start having to wear sunglasses at this rate. Right, that is just about it for tonight. We'll be back next week at 8 p.m. talking Northampton and Charlton Town, of course.
Yeah, not Bolton.
And looking ahead to Bolton, this is what we'll be doing. If you've enjoyed watching this, thank you for watching. If you've enjoyed it, what should they do, Hannah?
They should like and subscribe, and they should also leave us a 5-star review on the various podcasting platforms, please.
And find us on the TikToks and the Instagrams and the Facebooks and everywhere. We're across it all.
Yeah, but not in a
Multimedia.
stalking way. That's
Well, won't rule it out. They know where we drink on a Saturday now.
I know. Yeah, yeah.
Oh,
Can I
God.
recommend it? We'll be back on Saturday.
Yeah, we'll be earlier, if anything. We'll
Yes,
be-
yeah, a lot earlier. Yeah.
They're almost depressingly earlier.
I don't know though, because I don't drink, and I may have mentioned it, but like a vegan. But I used to love a like afternoon drinking session
Love an afternoon
because you
sesh.
sleep through your hangover and then you wake up and like, right, let's go.
Yeah. National League North days, I was in bed for like 10 o'clock every Saturday. Absolutely hammered, but in bed for 10.
Yeah.
Oh, they were the days. Yep, do the same again this week. If I'm still out at midnight again, I think the bar would have stayed open longer on Saturday if they'd not run out of beer.
Oh, do you think? What time? So what time was that?
It was about midnight.
Oh, so it wasn't that long after we went then.
No, it wasn't. It very much wound down after you left. I think.
Well, I mean, obviously,
This is
life and
what
soul
happens.
and all that.
Yeah, this is why you can't ever leave this podcast.
Right. Should we continue this conversation not with like
We will, because I've got gossip for you. Right, we will go. We will see you next week, same time, same place, 8 p.m. Bye.
Bye.